Welcome back to the Phoenix Rising Within. I'm your host, Michael Barnes. And this is the podcast where people are real and they rise from their ashes every single day, where pain becomes purpose, where trauma becomes testimony, and where we talk openly about the struggles that shape us into something stronger. Today's story is raw, emotional, and powerful. And it comes from a man who lived through bullying, identity conflict, prison, faith, struggles, and a near-death experience, and still found a way to rise. Please welcome my guest, Matt Melvin, author of Bullied Behind Bars, A Gay Christian Supporter Goes to Prison. Matt, first things first, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you coming onto the show. Before we get into the deeper layers of your story, I want listeners to understand the man behind the book. When someone meets you today, after everything, who is Matthew Melvin? How do you describe yourself now?
Resilient, survivor, advocate, empathetic, compassionate.
Okay. How does that differ from the boy you used to be?
The boy I used to be was angry, hostile, vengeful, and impulsive.
Okay. Expand on those a little bit if you want to.
The boy was, if you did something wrong to me, I would do something wrong to you. Today, I'm much more empathetic. I think through consequences. I am able to put myself in another person's shoes and try to do the Lord's work. I look at it this way. Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him in the Bible, yet he treated Judas the same way he treated everybody else. And that's what we as Christians are called to do. We are called to treat everybody equally, even though we know that people will betray us in life.
Okay. What part of yourself took the longest to rebuild?
Building trust. All of my crimes involve dishonesty, theft. So being able to rebuild that trust with people has taken a long time. And some people will never trust me again. And that's okay. I know that Jesus came to take away my sins and that he is ultimately who I have to answer to. I don't look for outside confirmation.
Okay. In your book, you talk about growing up in a place that didn't understand you, didn't protect you, and didn't even really accept you. Can we go back there for just a moment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was a dark and a place that really I couldn't find a home. And today I have found friends. I've been able to foster relationships because I reveal to friends that I have autism. I don't put that in the closet like I did for a long, long time, because I think it's important that people understand who I am. And it goes back to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We need to begin to understand the person before we can be understood.
Truer words were never spoken, or in this case, written. Now, when did the bullying first start, and what form did it take?
It took the form of the neighbor making fun of me because I was heavy and I was different. And it started on the school bus.
Okay, so way back even in grade school.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, did anyone ever step in, families, teachers, friends, or were you on your own?
I was really on my own.
Okay. Okay, being a gay Christian and later a Trump supporter, that puts you in a very unusual space. When did identity become a source of conflict for you? Or did it?
It's never been a source of conflict. I believe that society always wants to put us in boxes, but I defy being put in a box. I am who I am. I speak what on my mind. The Bible says what it means what it says. And that's how I live my life. I refuse to compromise, and I will never sell out to anyone. That's why I wouldn't make a good politician.
Okay, I said we're not bringing politics into this, but that was a good one. I'll leave that one in there. Okay. What did you carry from your childhood into adulthood that you didn't realize was still hurting you?
Anger, hostility, resentment. And it
Okay.
wasn't until I started doing men's work that I was able to let go of all that.
Okay. How did you let go of it? What happened there to get you to make that little click that would fill that gap and give you that release that you now, I'm looking at you right now, I see it there today.
The carpet work, that's where it really started making sense how I got here and seeing other men play roles in my life. That was where I was able to see the trauma, the pain that I experienced that carried me through to that point.
Okay. A lot of people right now are listening and carrying wounds, just like you did, just like I did, from childhood that no one ever saw, and you just gave them permission to name it. So, ambush journalism, that's the type of ambush I'm doing. Okay, I'm giving you the power and the authority and the voice to do the same thing I'm doing. Let's get these wounds out in the open so we can deal with them. Okay, that's what we're doing here. Okay, you told me in the pre-interview that your life-changing moment, the moment you said I've had it, something has to change, was a near-death experience behind the wheel. Can you walk us through what happened that day?
I was driving in August 2015 on I 495 in the middle lane, going 72 miles an hour, which is very slow. I've been known to go 130. No guts, no glory, no risk, no reward. When a Lexus SUV was coming the opposite direction, came down an embankment, crossed in front of my car, but by the grace of God, I was saved. And that was my turning point. For my entire life, I believed in God, but I was a lukewarm Christian. I had one foot in the water and one foot on the beach. And I was living a life that was sinful, full of lies, full of deceit, full of trying to pin somebody to do what I wanted them to do. And that was my turning point where I chose to put Jesus in the driver's seat rather than in the passenger seat. And my favorite song is Jesus Take the Wheel by Carrie Underwood.
Well, yep, I know it quite well. She's from Oklahoma as well. Okay, so what did it reveal about your life, your choices, or who you were becoming?
It revealed that if I continued on this detrimental path, that I would be spending the rest of my life in prison.
Okay. Was there someone or something else that influenced the direction you took after that moment?
I've had a lifelong friend. Her name was Barbara, and
Okay.
she played a mother motherly role in my life. And she had coached me and given me advice that I needed to change. And I was a very stubborn individual. And it wasn't until I had that near death experience that I was able to see that for myself.
Okay. Now, I've been in a few near-death experiences myself. Yeah, and they do. They shake something loose inside you. What did it shake loose for you?
That I needed to let go of the anger, let go of the resentment, let go of the hate, and start living a more godly lifestyle, being able to forgive those people that had wronged me. And it's forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about because when you forgive the other person, you allow yourself to be forgiven as well. And holding on to that anger and resentment holds me, anyone else, hostage. And if I am in anger, then I can't think clearly and I make irrational decisions.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about something else here for a minute. Your book doesn't hide anything. You went to prison. A lot of people talk about trauma. Not many talk about prison openly. Before we talk about what you learned in there, I want to ask something many listeners are wondering: what actually led to your incarceration?
I worked at a car dealership, Freedom Nissan on Shelburne Road. They didn't pay me the commissions I earned from selling vehicles. I impulsively made the decision to sell one of their cars, got caught. Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria to go through the mental health court. Instead, I went through the regular court and came out with a record. If I was allowed to complete the mental health court, I may not have a record today. I got out in 2005, couldn't find a job, so I impulsively made the decision to use other people's information to pass a background check. The government pursued me for 6 years and finally got an indictment in 2016. Went to prison for another 18 months, got out, and have been preaching God ever since and surrounding myself with positive people that are believers in Christ.
Okay. Okay, and so what was the first 24 hours like inside prison?
Petrifying. Every person that comes to prison is put in booking and a cell with a couple of other inmates, and it's chaotic. You don't know how many inmates are going to come in. It's a very small cell, and everybody can see your business. The toilet is just sitting right in the cell, and there's no privacy.
Okay, did the bullying continue? And did it have any type of a change from your childhood bullying to there, if there was any bullying? Or did it get worse? Did it ease off after a while? How did that actually transpire?
There wasn't much bullying in the single cell. It wasn't until I actually went to general population that the bullying resumed.
Okay, and
And
you
in
said
that instance, I was actually assaulted by a fellow inmate. The individual punched me in the eye. His name was Jackman.
okay, okay, and so it changed obviously, and it got worse because in your childhood it was just a bunch of finger pointing and name calling. Now we're talking about physical assault.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Now, did being gay affect how you were treated?
Oh, no question.
Okay. Okay. And What role did faith play, if any, during that time?
Which time? 2004 and 2005 or 2016 to 18?
If you want to expand on both, go ahead.
In 2004, I went to all of the Bible studies that were available, but I wasn't doing the work. In other words, I was just showing up as a means of getting out of a unit, which is how a lot of inmates operate. A lot of inmates go to Bible study oftentimes to engage in drug activity. I never had that issue or had anything to deal with that. But I was just going to the Bible studies as a means to get out of the unit and a way to feel in a safer space than I would have if I was in the unit. Contrast that to 2016, I was actually going to the Bible studies because I wanted a deeper relationship with God. And then when I went back to my cell, I was doing the work. I was reading my Bible. I was praying. I was engaging with other inmates about God.
Okay. Okay. So you walked into prison, and we'll use both times here. You walked into prison for the first time, one version of yourself, and you walked out of prison the second time, a whole different person. What changed in there?
I had an aha moment that I needed to stop stealing, stop being dishonest, and really turn my life over to God and start doing the work and being a shepherd of Him.
That's the one thing I love in my coaching and in my podcasts and in my public speaking is I love seeing that aha moment in the client's eyes or the audience's eyes when I'm doing my thing. That's why I smile so big when you said you had that aha moment. I'm like, I am so addicted to that. I'm so addicted to seeing that in people's face. And so I get that. Now, every phoenix rises differently. Okay? For some, it's faith. For some, it's community. For some, it's a moment of clarity. I think I heard two of those in your last statement. So this is where you get to bring everything together. What was your total path out of the ashes?
Being a shepherd for Jesus, carrying the cross, going out into the world and sharing the good news.
Okay. Who helped you heal?
There were several individuals, Deacon Jerry Schilla and Pastor Mo Wilbur, that were very instrumental in assisting me in that journey. I think any person that comes out of prison that has a faith calling has to have good spiritual advisors. Because if they don't, they will just revert back to the same behavior.
Okay. This is a big one. We've kind of touched on this earlier, but this is where you get to really bring everything together. What beliefs did you have to let go of?
That I wasn't worthy, I wasn't good enough. God can use me despite my bad decisions, my criminal record. Without a doubt, Paul would have had a long criminal record. He spent a lot of time in prison. In fact, most of the disciples had some experience behind bars, and they were imperfect individuals. And that's the thing with Christ is God uses imperfect individuals to do amazing things. The Pharisees and Sadducees could quote scripture inside and out, but they were only talking the talk. They weren't walking the walk. And God looks for men and women who not only can talk the talk, but walk the walk. And that's the key. is my walk with God should reflect who I am, my talk.
Okay. You noted the uh, in the pre-interview questions I sent you, your inspiration to write the book was Anne Frank. How did Anne Frank inspire your book?
Her determination to get her story out, despite possibly being killed, that was my inspiration. Because when I was writing and journaling my book, I was putting myself in jeopardy. And in fact, in one of the facilities I was at, the guards actually confiscated my journal entries. So the guards knew what I was doing and they didn't like it. The inmates knew what I was doing and they didn't like it. So I was putting a huge target on my back. But like everything I do in life, I don't care about what other people think of me.
I actually have a better phrase for that. Um, what everyone else thinks of you is none of your business.
Yes, I've said that on other podcasts as
I
well.
love that phrase because people can sit there and say, "I don't care. I want to walk and be all, macho." But when you phrase it that way, that what other people think of you is none of your business, it kind of gives more of a clarity and a more of a reason to let go of those feelings, those thoughts, and those, for lack of a better term, actions that you would do if you were just stating in the air, like you were speaking before about people were talking the talk but not walking the walk. People will say, I don't care what other people think of me. And they sit there on their phone scrolling on Facebook at 2 o'clock in the morning saying what they say about me. Okay. When you put it in that phrase that it's nobody else's business, or it's not my.
It's not my business what other people think of me.
Thank you. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I'm already tired. Okay, but yes, to me that phrase gives a much better way of letting it go.
Let go and let God.
Exactly. So we touched on this a little bit as well. What was the hardest part about forgiving yourself?
I feel like I was not worthy. I couldn't be forgiven. My record spoke for itself. It wasn't until I had people in my life start telling me they loved me that I started being able to forgive myself.
Okay.
But
What?
it all came from my first loving myself. I
Yep.
can't accept love from another person if I don't love myself. And that started from saying I love you in the mirror 10 times a day.
Yeah. You had to. You've got to get that. You have to get that affirmation to yourself before you can accept it from anybody else. One hundred
Amen.
percent. Okay, so what message are you trying to give the world with your book?
That anyone can overcome any situation they're in. God doesn't give us anything that we can't get out of. We are always have the answers. If I look for the outside world for answers, I will always be disappointed. The answers are really inside of me, and I can't do anything without God, which is the problem with the personal development community is they think that all the answers are within themselves. I can't do anything without God.
Okay. Okay. You have taken the darkest chapters of your life and turned it into a roadmap for someone else. That is your phoenix. That's rising. So, what I want you to do now is I want you to imagine that someone listening right now is living the life you used to live, bullied, ashamed, isolated, maybe even on a dangerous path. What would you say to the younger version of yourself or to someone in that same darkness today?
Seek help. Ask for assistance. Don't isolate. Share your story. Ask for help. Find your tribe. Don't think that putting something off tomorrow will be the answer. Get help today. Seek out assistance. Be bold. Be vulnerable. Be courageous. Be a survivor.
Okay, this is your time to shine. This is where I sit. This is free form. Go. You've I budgeted an hour for this. We're only at 30 minutes. We're almost done. So keep going. No, did I put you on the spot there a little bit?
Yes, you did.
Wasn't meaning to, but for lack, again, I don't do ambush. This is the worst I'll ever do to you. Okay. One of the things I talk about in both of my books is you have to not only look within yourself and in some people's cases God for the answer, but you have to also audit your circle.
Yes. So I view it this way, Mike. If I surround myself with a bunch of negative people, I will turn negative. I look at it as a box of blueberries. If you have one wilted blueberry, all the rest will become wilted.
I like to use the crab mentality. You ever seen a bucket full of crabs in water? They're all in there. They're all being happy, but then one says, "I'm not happy anymore, and I want to get out of the bucket." His friends are going to pull him back down, and that is one of the biggest examples I use when it comes to coaching, because we are the sum of the 5 people we hang out with the most.
Yes, absolutely. So I was surrounding myself with negative people. I had to rid myself of every negative person. Now, I will tell you, my family is very negative. So it is challenging. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. So I deal with enough negativity from my family that I don't need anybody else that's negative. And the other thing that I think is so important in all the men's works I've done is using I statements. When I do this, it makes me feel blank. That's putting ownership on how I feel in a given situation. A lot of guys, because I have a lot of exposure to men's work, use you, we, they statements. That removes personal accountability and responsibility and diminishes the impact.
Yep. Very, very true. Very, very true. So, for listeners who want to read your book, where can they find Bullied Behind Bars?
It's on Amazon. My website is bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars. Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621, and X, Bars Bullied. You can also email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com.
Okay. You gave your email address as a website, so you want to... I do that all the time, too. I do that all the time.
bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com.
Right, but what's the website?
My website is bulliedbehindbars.com.
Okay. Okay, and Matt, thank you today for your honesty, your courage, and your heart. This conversation matters, and so does your story. To everyone watching and listening, if this episode hit something inside you, don't stay silent. As he said earlier, reach out, heal, rise. You're not alone. My book, The Phoenix Within and From Turmoil to Transformation, is available on Amazon. If you're rising on your own rising journey, I offer one-on-one coaching and group work. Links will be in the description, especially when I finally set up the group coachings. And if you want to support this show, join us on Patreon for early episodes and bonus discussions. I want to thank everyone for joining today. Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. This is not the last time you're showing up. I want to tell you that right now. Probably after the first of the year, I'll send out some more invites for people to come back onto my show, and you will be on the top of that list. All right?
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
So, until next time, keep rising, keep fighting, and keep becoming the person you are meant to be.